That time, we all heard it, cool and clear, cutting across the hot grit of the day, the major voice, the adult voice, foregoing rolling river, foregoing tearful tale of bale and barge, and other symptoms of an old despond, warning and music words devout and large, that we are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. We are each other's magnitude and bond. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Sotonye Afiesimama. If you're a subscriber, I appreciate your support. Thanks for your subscription. If you're a returning visitor, thank you for dropping by once again. Why not subscribe so that you'll receive updates of my video uploads? If you're here for the first time, welcome to my channel where I discuss events that occurred on this day in history with a view to informing, hopefully, entertaining, and most importantly, that we learn lessons from the positive events and mistakes of the past so that we hopefully do not repeat those mistakes, because as the saying goes, history tends to repeat itself. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's get cracking with today's important events as recorded in history. First, we shall start with Gilbert Stuart. Now, this guy, you probably never heard about him. If you're a student of art in the United States, and very likely you would have heard of Gilbert Stuart. But this is him pictured right here. It's a self-portrait by Gilbert Stuart. Now, Gilbert Stuart, a little bit about him. He was an American painter, full name Gilbert Charles Stuart. So Stuart is spelled S-T-U-A-R-T, but he was born S-T-E-W-A-R-T. So he changed his name from Stewart to Stuart. Born on this day in 1755 in Saunderstown, Rhode Island colony. Yes, Rhode Island was a colony in 1755, a colony of the United Kingdom. He was an American painter, presumably the United Kingdom. Correct me if I'm wrong. I do know that New York was known as New Amsterdam at one point, so I'm assuming it was a colony of the United Kingdom at the time. So Gilbert Stuart was a painter from the United States who is widely considered one of America's foremost portraitists. Now, the reason you shall soon find out. His best known work is the portrait of the first ever president of the United States. So you recognize that face, that is George Washington. He began the portrait in 1796. It is sometimes referred to as the Athenaeum Portrait. So this is a portrait of George Washington by Gilbert Stuart, the picture that I showed earlier. Gilbert Stuart was born on this day in 1755. Widely considered one of America's foremost portraitists. He died 5 days after Independence Day, the 9th of July, 1828, at the age of 72. Died in Boston, Massachusetts. 1884. We are in India. His name is Rajendra Prasad. Born on this day, he was an Indian independence activist. He was a lawyer, a scholar, and subsequently the first president of India, in office from 1950 to 1962. So he was 66 when he became president, and he was there for 12 years, so 66, 78. At the age of 78, he left office. He was an Indian political leader and lawyer by training. Yes, did mention that earlier. Prasad joined the Indian National Congress during the Indian independence movement and became a major leader from the region of Bihar. A supporter of Mahatma Gandhi, Prasad was imprisoned by British authorities during the Salt Satyagraha of 1931 and the Quit India movement of 1942. So that's India's first president, Rajendra Prasad, born on this day in 1884, died 28th February 1963, so very likely less than a year after he left office, he died. Okay, let's move on now to the year 1895. I've mentioned this lady before. Well, this was the day she was born in 1895. Her name is Anna Freud. The Freud name sounds familiar. Yes, this is Sigmund Freud's daughter. So Sigmund Freud's probably the most famous psychoanalyst of all time. This is his daughter who took after her father as well. She's a psychoanalyst also, but her specialization is in children. Okay, so she is a founder of child psychoanalysis and one of its foremost practitioners, born on this day in Vienna, Austria. 1967. On this day, Christiaan Barnard, pictured here, of South Africa, performed the first human heart transplant at Groote Schuur Hospital in Cape Town. So Christiaan Barnard, 1967, on this day, the first human heart transplant in Cape Town, South Africa. So the person who he transplanted the heart on died of pneumonia 18 days later, but at least the person was able to talk. Talk and walk, I think. Talk for sure, but person lived for 18 days. I wouldn't say just 18 days. This was the first human heart transplant. So obviously, the skill was still in its very, very infant stages. Obviously, skill levels in technology have grown in leaps and bounds since 1967, but this is the Dr. Christiaan Barnard who pioneered heart transplants on this day in 1967. Last but not least, the year is 2000, and yes, I did narrate a poem or recite. Why did they say recite a poem? We don't say narrate a poem. Okay. Anyway, this is Gwendolyn Brooks, Pulitzer Prize winning poet. And yes, I did read her poetry again at the beginning of this video. That time, we all heard it cool and clear, cutting across the hot grit of today. The major voice, the adult voice, foregoing rolling river, foregoing tearful tale on bale and barge, and other symptoms of an old despond, warning in music words, devout and large, that we are each other's harvest, we are each other's business, we are each other's magnitude and bond. I like the poem. She's got so many poems. So I'm going to read a bit more about Gwendolyn Brooks. Yes, like I mentioned earlier, she is a Pulitzer Prize winning poet who spoke of and to the everyday struggles and triumphs of African Americans. She died on this day in the year 2000. Her full name was Gwendolyn Elizabeth Brooks. Born on the 7th of June 1917, she was an American poet, author, and teacher. Her work often dealt with the personal celebrations and struggles of ordinary people in her community. She won the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry on the 1st of May 1950 for Annie Allen, which is a collection of poetry, making her the first African American to receive a Pulitzer Prize. In 1985 to 86, Brooks was a Library of Congress consultant in poetry, now Poet Laureate consultant in poetry. So the position has changed. The name of the position has changed. And in 1989, she received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the National Endowment for the Arts. She became a professor of English at Chicago State University in 1990, a position she held until her death. So again, Gwendolyn Brooks, who died on this day in the year 2000, the first African American to win a Pulitzer Prize. On that note, folks, we have come to the end of today's Today in History for the 3rd of December. Thank you for dropping by. Hope to see you tomorrow for another edition of Today in History. My name once more, Sotonye Afiasimama. Stay safe. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.